Hello everyone! Today we are announcing the official launch of Ogre.run, a developer tool designed to simplify and ensure code reproducibility. Our tool automates the generation of configuration files and documentation to reproduce code functionality on any machine. We focus on what we call code-adjacent tasks. Those are tasks that come after code is written. Examples of code-adjacent tasks are writing documentation, setting up deployment infrastructure, and defining the software supply chain, represented by Software Bill of Materials or SBOM. When you compare the effort that goes into coding versus code-adjacent tasks, the latter makes up for most of the energy spent by development teams. That's why access to source code is not enough and does not guarantee application reproducibility. Since our first private release in December 2023, which consisted of a command line tool only, we've been hard at work. With the feedback from our early beta testers, we've continued refining, testing, and improving our command line tool. But we are still at the very beginning of this journey. What we are releasing today is a web application that helps developers generate and track the elements for code reproduction. We call those reproducibility artifacts. For example, Docker files, configuration files, and documentation are all part of the set of reproducibility artifacts. Our motivation to build this tool comes from seeing too many promising ideas lost in code that can't be replicated. For example, if you browse through repositories like GitHub and GitLab, they often look like unedited diaries, where potentially brilliant ideas are buried under disorganized, hard-to-reproduce projects. By prioritizing reproducibility as a core requirement for a software project, Ogre is closing the gap between experimentation and deployment. Our goal is to help developers boost their capacity for innovation by eliminating code reproduction challenges. When code is reproducible, innovation moves faster. And faster innovation is what enables companies to focus on delivering true business value instead of getting stuck in dead-end experiments. So let's deep dive into the Ogre web application and see how it works. So everything starts when you visit the website app.ogre.run. This is the greeting page, and here at the upper right corner is where you can sign up or sign in. I'm already signed in using my GitHub account, so let's have a look at the dashboard. In the dashboard, you can see all the projects that are being tracked by Ogre. So each one of those boxes here corresponds to a project in my GitHub account. So let's inspect one of those. For example, Mini Ogre, which is our open source project. So what is happening here? This is showing information about the original repository and its main branch. So Ogre, every time somebody pushes a new update to the main branch, Ogre will get those files and then create the reproducibility artifacts that are shown here. In this case, we have these artifacts here: Docker file, requirements file, software bill of materials, and a README file. So this way, Ogre is able to keep track of the code evolution and then create everything that's necessary to run that code. We also provide a terminal window here to allow developers to do quick tests and explore the source code and the artifacts that were produced. So we can use this handy script here that I just copied and then paste here, hit enter, and then I can inspect the artifacts, for example, the requirements file. These are all the dependencies necessary in order to run and install Mini Ogre. So that's the basic of what is happening here. So let's get back to the dashboard. Let's now create a new project. Let's select one repository from my GitHub. So Ogre can track and then continuously and automatically produce the reproducibility artifacts. All right, when you hit new project, you can select the organization. In this case, I will select my personal organization and then choose a repository. This one is called File Server Demo, which is just a Flask application that contains code in Python, and then we're going to generate the artifacts for this. So here you can change the name. For example, I'm just going to add test here and then add a description, just a quick demo. All right, when I hit create project, Ogre will pull the latest commit in the main branch of that repository and then start creating the reproducibility artifacts. Okay, so here is the new card that contains the artifacts for this specific repository. You can see from this little dot here that there are updates available, and this is gonna appear every time somebody puts a new code. You don't need to create a new project anymore. Once you do this, every time the code is updated, this will also be updated. All right, so here we can see the artifacts. And one interesting thing about this repository, which was done intentionally, is that if you go to my GitHub account, the README for this repository is empty. It only contains a title. And this is intentional because I wanted to show you how Ogre can create a proper README file based on the code that's here. So if you inspect the code, it exists. It is a functional Flask application, but there is no information on how to set it up, how to make it work anywhere. So let's use this script again, as we did with the mini Ogre, and inspect the README file that was generated. So as you can see, there is content here. So Ogre was able to understand what is happening in the code, and based also on the other files that are present in the repository, it created a README file. So if we look again at the original repository, we can see that the README file is empty. So this gives you a very nice starting point as a developer, as a scientist who are just coding all the time in order to create a proper documentation. All right? So if you're satisfied with that and you want to share this with the rest of your team, you can just create a pull request. If you click here, Ogre will create a new branch and then create a pull request into main. All right, pull request has been created successfully. Let's get back to GitHub and check the pull requests. All right, we have one here. Update build with artifacts. So this was done by the Ogre.run bot. You can see the files that have changed, and special attention to the README file that now has content. And from here, you can approve. All right. So I'm going to do merge pull request, confirm merge. It has been merged. Great. So we showed you how to use Ogre to track the evolution of your project in terms of reproducibility artifacts, and then how to create a pull request once you're satisfied with those artifacts. You're not obligated to create a pull request every time, but it helps you, in the end, it helps you to keep things organized and focus on code reproducibility. Thanks for watching. I hope you are excited to give Ogre a try. As I mentioned before, we are at the very beginning of this journey, so we appreciate any feedback from users. If you like what you see, please consider getting the Pro license. It comes with unlimited projects tracking and access to a NVIDIA L4 GPU via the Ogre terminal. Stay tuned for the next videos that we'll be publishing during the week. Until next time.